Oh. Om Satchidananda-rupaya Vishwotpattyadi-hetave Tapatraya-vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Janmadhyasya yatonvayaditaratascharteshvabhignaswarat Tene brahmahridaya adikavaye muhyanti yatsurayaha Tejo varimridam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo mrisha Tamna svena sada nirastakuhakam satyam param dhimahi Dharma projita kaitavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam Vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayon mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Kim va parerishvaraha Sadyo hridyavarudyate trakritibihi Shushrushubistakshanat. Hari Om and greetings from Columbus. We began our course on Vedanta and Bhagavatam trying to appreciate what bhakti is. When bhaktas meet Bhagwan, what do they discuss? When bhaktas meet Bhagwan, they discuss bhaktas. Because they know that pleasure, possession, position will not lead to peace. We all know that too. It simply requires the logic and courage to follow bhakti. Bhakti means revolving around those people who love Bhagwan. It means revolving around Bhagwan. Bhaktas and Bhagwan are the source of peace. That's what we need in life. We want pleasure, possession, position, but what we need is peace. Our course continued. We went from big picture to small picture, from bhakti to Bhagavata. Bhagavata is the means and ends to Bhagwan, to life. Bhagavata is compared to a boat that many of us are drowning in meaninglessness. And the details of this scripture help to bring meaning into our lives. And more specifically, when Bhagwan Krishna was leaving his body, his avatara, then Prince Arjuna, Uddhava, the world felt, what will we do without you? And Bhagwan Krishna also realized that with his absence, that dharma would go into imbalance. And so he transferred himself into Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is known as Vangmayi Murti. It is Bhagwan Krishna in the form of words. This is called a Achala Murti, Bhagwan Narayana in the form of a icon. Bhagavatam is the same. Bhagavatam is a katha. Now when you hear katha, what do you think of? You think of stories, right? Like Harry Potter, like Lord of the Rings. A katha is that which is supposed to bring more light into your life. Now, if this is true or this is an embellishment, if you feel lighter, if you're more enlightened, does it matter? It doesn't matter. No different than in medicine. A placebo often has a greater effect than a chemical compound. If it's helping your health, then whether it's a sugar pill or a chemical pill, it's helping your health. That's the point of medicine. So this is a kata, and what is to be remembered that this kata is associated with Vedavyasa. Vedavyasa has experience that we cannot even intellectually grasp. Sanatana Dharma does not have a founder, but if there is a keeper of Sanatana Dharma, it is Vedavyasa. The Brahma Sutras, his analysis of the Upanishad, the Mahabharata, Srimad Bhagavatam. Before Srimad Bhagavatam proper begins, there's a section called the Mahatmya. The Mahatmya is to help us understand how great what you're about to study is. It's almost like in a book, before you begin the book, there's a recommendation by various other great authors, let's say. In this Mahatmya, there is a story about a mother and two sons. And in this story, those two sons are much older and weaker than that mother. And they find the story finds this mother and sons, I believe in Vrindavan. The sons became quite old in Gujarat, if you remember me telling you all of these details. And they find themselves in Vrindavan. And Rishi Narada tries to help them, but he's unable to. And it's only when he is introduced to Bhagavatam and he shares this with this mother and sons that they start to become strong and come to life again. For all of us, specifically in Chinmaya Mission, most of what we study is intellectual. And one expression of the intellect is logic. Our education system is no different. We think with logic. However, in advanced Vedanta, you have to let go of logic and hold on to faith. If you remember when we studied Ramayana, before Bhagwan Rama was even born, who got married? Bhagwan Shiva and Mother Parvati. The icons for Shraddha and Vishwas, for faith and trust. When faith and trust are present in your life, happiness will be born. Logic is not mentioned. So Rishi Narada first uses logic, but eventually he uses bhakti, and everyone comes back to life. Here is where the Mahatmya is completed, and the first skanda begins. In Ramayana, the chapters are called kandas. In Bhagavatam, they're called skandas. And the focus of the first skanda is adhikari. Who is a student? What does it mean to be a student? Our Bhagavatam begins in a place in northern India called Naimisharanya. It's near Kanpur. And there's an elaborate ritual that's going on. And like back in the day, and even now, during rituals, what happens to people's minds? They become distracted. No different than during a wedding. Who actually pays attention to anyone's wedding anymore? Even the bride and groom are not paying attention. They're looking at the pujari, hurry up, we paid for this. So during these elaborate rituals, they would invite a katakar, someone who's talented, someone whose expertise is to share meaningful stories. So in Naimisharanya, this elaborate ritual is going on, but there's thinkers. And our thinker's name is Rishi Shaunaka. He is the best householder. When I stay at people's homes, they have photographs of on the wall of their families or posters of the Avengers or athletes. What we should have is a poster of Rishi Shaunaka. That's whom we should be like. And Rishi Shaunaka asks, his name is Rishi Ugrashavas, a wise kathakar, 6 questions. Here are these 6 questions, okay? From these 6 questions, the rest of Bhagavatam is a answer to these 6 questions. So 6 questions, 18,000 verses to answer these 6 questions. Question 1. What is good for all beings? What is the greatest good, not just for humanity, but also for animals, plants? Number 2. What is the purpose of a avatara? Note, I'm not saying avatar. Avatar 2 is coming out soon, but it is avatara. Question 3. What is the performance of avatars? Avatars have come with us. What did they do? Question 4. What is the passings of avatars? So they performed, but what did they do in addition to that purpose? It's almost like if you go to a business meeting, you also go swimming, right? So what were those passings like? Question 5. What was the play of the avatars? And this question is specific to Bhagavan Krishna. Tell us how he played. And so much of, when we get to that portion, will be Bhagavan Krishna as a kid. And finally, what became the home of Dharma? See, Rishi Shaunaka, he knows that Bhagavan Krishna is no longer physically present. Where did Dharma go when Bhagavan Krishna went? And these questions are as if answered in reverse. Where did Dharma go? Bhagavata, which I've already mentioned to you. Bhagavatam does revolve around Bhagavan Narayana, but the emphasis is Bhagavan Krishna. And one of Bhagavan Krishna's names is Vasudeva. Do you know what Vasudeva means subjectively? It means you. You are actually Vasudeva. It is Vasa and Deva. Vasa means that which lives, that which is established. For us, Sat. That which lives, what we're established in, is existence. And Deva means that which shines, that which illuminates, which would be Chit, our awareness. And this is such an important detail because, like I asked all of you yesterday, where does God live? We keep pointing up. Where does God live? We should be pointing to ourselves. We are Vasudeva. As Rishi Shaunaka asks this question, Rishi Ugrashava says, these are not original questions. These questions have been asked before by a personality named Raja Parikshita. And he asked these questions to Rishi Shuka. Raja Parikshita is the byproduct of the Mahabharata war. In the first skanda, the entire Mahabharata war is recapped. Raja Parikshita is born, and then more of the post-war details are given. And post-war, who became the leader of the world? It was Raja Parikshita. And he wanted no selfishness in his country, in his world. So he went looking for Kali. Kali means selfishness. Kali means quarrel. Kali means fast. Like internet speeds, upload speeds, download speeds, right? That's all a show of Kali. Remember internet with a phone? That was Akali. That was slow. So he goes looking for him, and he finds him, and he is beating a bull. And 3 of these bull's legs are broken, and the 4th one is about to be broken, and that last leg is known as Satya. And that leg it's saved. And this is so evident in the fact that we're having satsanga right now, no? We had exposed ourselves to this too. How do you practice satya? Sattvastaha, by being sattvic. How do you be sattvic? By being in satsanga. So much truth to what we're exposed to. When he finds Kali, he says, you cannot live in my country, you cannot live in my world. But finally he gives him 5 places to live, of which one of them is Kanchan. Kanchan is our coordinator for our course. And that's where the first adhikari, the first skanda, essentially is completed. And we move to the second skanda, where the focus is sadhana. In sadhana, Raja Parikshita, when he succumbs to Kanchan, with that crown on his head, he acts in a very unbecoming way. He is cursed that he shouldn't live. He has 1 week to survive. The 168 hours that we were exposed to also. When he knows that he has 1 week to live, he leaves his worldly responsibilities, finds a place near the Ganga, and sits down and inquires. No one else is with him. He's by himself. And when he starts to inquire, when that sincerity is radiating, thousands of sadhus had come to where he is, the greatest, most respected of which is Rishi Shuka, a 16-year-old boy, the son of Rishi Vyasa. When he came near Raja Parikshita, everyone stood up, including Rishi Vyasa. And Raja Parikshita, who's so moved by the presence of these sadhus, asks a most directed question. What should a dying man do? And this question has to be interpreted fully. Is this question just about a man? It's about every being. Is this question just about dying? It's really about living. Every one of us is going to die. Yes, all of us are dying. So this question really is, how should we live? Some say that Srimad Bhagavatam teaches you the art of dying, and that Srimad Bhagavad Gita teaches you the art of living. But scholars of these scriptures know that the greatest commentary on Bhagavad Gita is Bhagavatam. You're first supposed to study Bhagavatam, then Bhagavad Gita, then the Upanishad. But we're so great, we go in the opposite order, isn't it? We try the Upanishad, I don't get it. Gita, I don't get it. So then we come to Bhagavatam. But this is our fundamentals. When you know the art of dying, you start to live artfully, yes? Rishi Shuka starts to share more details about Bhagwan, known as Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is known as a Purana. Ramayana is known as a Itihasa. The difference between a Itihasa and Purana, a Itihasa is factual, which is why we call it in English history. World War II happened. There's no debate about that. World War I happened. There's no debate about that. Mahabharata and Ramayana happened. Documentation is different, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. My grandmother probably doesn't have a birth certificate. So logically, she wasn't born, correct? Because she doesn't have a birth certificate. But back in the day, documentation was different. She didn't need one. My parents have told me back in the day, they could cross over to the US and come back with a driver's license. Sometimes they said they didn't have their driver's license and the border didn't care. You try that, try that now. They'll arrest you for espionage, no? Documentation has changed. Whereas a Purana is not factual, it is educational. They both have the same purpose, facts and education. It is to guide one towards more meaning in life. So as Rishi Shuka is answering Raja Parikshita's question, he's sharing details that are true, details that are embellished, but the purpose is the same. This second skanda also highlights the original Bhagavata. The original Bhagavata is known as Chatushloki Bhagavatam. The entire 18,000 verses is encompassed in 4 verses, and they are most powerful verses. We invested a lot of time thinking about these verses, about what's infinity, what's in illusion, what's creation, and what are you supposed to do about all of this? How do we navigate through creation, through the illusion, to infinity? And this skanda is completed. The third skanda, the focus is sarga, and sarga means creation. Fundamental creation, creation of the elements. The dialogue in this skanda is with Rishi Maitreya and Vidura. Vidura is known as a Mahatma. That's his honor. And he's actually an incarnation of Bhagwan Yama. He's an incarnation of Bhagwan Yama. And Rishi Vidura, he meets Rishi Maitreya and he asks him, how is everyone? Tell me about life. And Rishi Maitreya starts to teach him what he learned from Bhagwan Krishna. And so much of the details in the third sarga are through this dialogue. What's quite lovely about this review, I think, is the first skanda is 2 people talking, the second sarga is 2 different people talking, the third is 2 different people talking. And that's why I shared when bhaktas are with Bhagwan, what do they talk about? Bhaktas. When bhaktas are with bhaktas, what do they talk about? Bhagwan. They never get lost in gossip. Okay? I'm going to pause here. I think that my connection is not strong. Can you hear me and see me? Okay. I will continue, and if it doesn't continue as strongly, then we'll switch our Wi-Fi network. So let me know again, okay? Next time we'll switch it out. The third skanda, which is on sarga, is about creation. How many creation theories are there in Sanatana Dharma? 64. There's all sorts of creation theories because everyone has a different maturity. And the highest maturity of creation theory is there is no creation. There is only existence awareness. We feel that all of these forms and names are real, but they're not absolutely real. They depend on that existence awareness. But creation is highlighted because that's the maturity with which we're going in. I'm telling all of you, you're not created. Do you feel that? So how is creation facilitated? Bhagwan Narayana creates the materials. Bhagwan Brahma becomes his manager. And the manager has to proliferate creation. And he does this through himself, actually. He creates the first woman and man. And through the first woman and man, they begin creation through reproduction, as is now common in our society. So all of those details are given. And this skanda is completed with 2 great people who start to exhibit pride, and that is Jaya and Vijaya. They exhibit their pride first to Devi Lakshmi, and Bhagwan Narayana can't do anything because he'd be playing favoritism, correct? If my wife said that don't let her in because she's rude, and I say that, then you'll all think, my wife, I'm playing favoritism to her, right? So Bhagwan Narayana says, be patient. And then Jaya and Vijaya act in an unbecoming way finally to the Sanata Kumaras. And that's when Bhagwan Narayana gets to act on it. And Jaya and Vijaya become Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. And in this skanda, we're introduced to Bhagwan Varaha, one of the first avatars. And Bhagwan Varaha destroys Hiranyaksha. And the other avatar that we get to meet is Rishi Kapila. Kapila Upadesha takes up a large portion of Srimad Bhagavatam's third skanda, It is deep teachings. And what's lovely about this, who is Rishi Kapila teaching? His mother, Devi Devahuti. So all of you, you pretend that you're Rishi Kapila and you can teach your parents. And they're such an awesome family. The father is enlightened, the mother is enlightened, the son is enlightened. That's how a family should be. This sarga is completed. We move on to the fourth skanda, which is called Visarga. Third skanda, Sarga. Fourth skanda, Visarga. Sarga means fundamental creation. Visarga means functional creation. Once the materials that are in place, you can start to modify those materials to create more. This Visarga has a focus on humans. Now that humans have a world to live in, what are they supposed to do in this world? And what they're supposed to do in this world is known as the Purusharthas. Throughout the fourth skanda, the different Purusharthas are highlighted. And these Purusharthas are highlighted by 4 personalities. Dharma is taught through Daksha, Artha is taught through Dhruva, Kama is taught through Prithu, and finally Moksha is taught through Puranjana. You do remember all of the details of all of this, yes? I only invested 6 months in this, yes? So we went through all of that, and all of these details were quite deep. How Raja Dhruva wouldn't let go of Kubera Deva. How Puranjana, he was lost in this dream, he became Puranjani. All of those thoughts were shared. The main point of this entire skanda is how many Purusharthas are there? 1. The only Purusha Artha, the only humanly purpose is moksha. And if Dharma, Artha, and Kama are not serving moksha, then they serve no purpose. And these personalities highlighted that. After the fourth skanda, we shifted to sthana. The fifth skanda focuses sthana. Sthana means establishment. Sthana means home. In this skanda, where humans live is highlighted. The topography, the geography. And the main personalities were Rishabha, Bhagwan Rishabha, Rishi Bharata, and not so much a personality, but a highlight on Naraka. Bhagwan Rishabha, such an awesome icon for being a grahastha and a sannyasi. This is the same Rishabha that those who follow Jainism treat as a Tirthankara, is a avatara of Bhagwan Narayana. And all of those details are shared. Bhagwan manifests to show householders how they should live. Bhagwan manifests to show sannyasis how they should live. He shows both of them, and really, if you think about this very deeply, they shouldn't be living differently. That same bhava should be continuing. I was talking to a young adult recently, and she was saying that everything you're sharing, I'm too young for this. When I'm old like my parents, then I'll be interested in this. And she was struggling, so I didn't go out of my way to tell her what I was thinking. What I was thinking was, I'm going to reinterpret what you're saying is, you're too young to be happy, so when you're old like your parents, then you'll be happy. Really, that's what you're saying, yes? See how illogical that sounds? I had shared about Bhagwan Rishabha. What did he always keep in his mouth? Stones. He always kept a stone in his mouth. Number 1, when he ate, he always ate less than. If you have a stone in your mouth, you're not going to bite as hard, right? Like when you have a rock in your dal or your rice. So he always did that. And then if you have a rock in your mouth, do you talk as much? right? If you have a candy in your mouth, it's hard to speak then. So he was so cool like that. On one of our yatras or retreats, I'm going to make everyone do that. His son was known as Rishi Bharata. And Rishi Bharata was so great, that is the personality whom our land has now been recognized as Bharata. Rishi Bharata was really Raja Bharata, and so those who live under him are known as Bharatiya, known as Bharata. But he made a mistake. He slowly became attached to what? A deer. We're attached to deers also, correct? I call my wife deer. But he was attached to an actual animal deer. And as you think, so you become. When his body died, he became a deer. And through God's grace, he remembered that I made a mistake. And when he was born again, he acted in such an aloof way so as not to get caught by the world. He became known as Jada Bharata. Even though enlightened, acted like a fool. That way people wouldn't bother him. Remember I told you in the car, when people are distracted, I pretend to sleep. It works. And this skanda is completed where Raja Parikshita is asking Rishi Shuka, what happens to people who don't follow Bhagavatam? What happens to people who don't know Bhagavatam? And he says they go to Naraka. See, a problem with our Vedantic study is we think heaven and hell is here. And heaven and hell is here, but it's an actual physical place also. And all of that is listed out. One of my favorite parts of reading about hell, I was going to say one of my favorite parts about hell when I was there the other day, reading about hell is those who are lusty. And I feel every time you read the newspaper, you see how lust is becoming more prevalent. Those who are lusty, whoever they're lusty towards, when they die, they go to a region where the person they're lusty towards manifests as a steel figure. So imagine I'm lusty towards this man or woman over here. So that man or woman is manifested as a steel form, but is red hot. And you have to keep on hugging that form. That's a good way to learn, no? So Naraka is highlighted. And then finally, what we've studied in the 6th skanda, even though Raja Parikshita is so great, now he's concerned. I don't want to go to hell. What do I do about the way I've lived? So the 6th skanda is focusing on Poshana. Adhikari, Sadhana, Sarga, Visarga, Sthana, Poshana. Poshana means grace. And this skanda essentially is sharing the only way that we can be outside of Naraka is through the grace of God. And this is brought to life through the story of Ajamila. Ajamila is this deeply confused man who succumbs to a prostitute, totally negligent about his kids. But by grace, a sadhu comes to their home, names that youngest son as Narayana. And when Ajamila is this old man, he's 88, he's about to die, he's thinking about his son and says, Narayana. And as Yama's messengers are coming to take him, Bhagavan Narayana's messengers come and they have a fight off. And eventually, obviously, Bhagavan Narayana's messengers win. When Bhagavan Narayana's messengers bring Ajamila back to Vaikuntha, Mother Lakshmi, Devi Lakshmi is frustrated. You never give me any time. Here this old man wasn't even calling to you. He was calling to his son and you left me? And Bhagavan Narayana so compassionate says, that old man doesn't know my name, but I know my name. And so I was simply answering, to my name. True? If there's many Priyas in the room and I want to talk to this Priya, but I say Priya, all of the Priyas are going to look, no? You know your name? It's amazing to read about how God justifies her or his love for us. That's where this feeling of being overwhelmed with love comes to light when you know these details. And then after Ajamila, we looked into Vritra. How one of the greatest parts of Bhagavatam is where an Asura is talking to a Devata, and who's expressing bhakti? The Asura. Oh, I just got kicked off. Okay. The Asura is sharing to the Devata how small-minded you are. You're interested in heaven and earth when you have access to Bhagwan? You should kill me sooner so I can return to Bhagwan. Vritra, this whole dialogue is most lovely. If you ever hear this from Swami Tejomayananda, you will know what I'm referring to, about how deeply moving this is. Now Raja Parikshita continues with his confusion and questioning, and he wants to know, how can an Asura be so devoted? And this skanda is completed where Vritra was actually Chitraketu back in the day. And Chitraketu, he had a son who was murdered, and he became reflective. We studied so much about not being attached as family members, not being attached to our kids. Raja Chitraketu felt really good, but then he questioned Bhagwan Shiva. Bhagwan Shiva had Mother Parvati sitting with him and said, even an ordinary man doesn't sit with his spouse like this. Mother Parvati didn't like that and said, you're thinking like an Asura, so you should become one. That's how Chitraketu became Vritra. And Bhagwan Shiva explains to Mother Parvati, see, he's using his eyes. As long as you use your eyes, you will see females and males. You will see black and white. But me, that is Bhagwan Shiva, I don't use my eyes. That's why Bhagwan Shiva's eyes are half closed. He uses his intellect, where we put a tilak. I use vision. I only see a oneness between me and you, that is Mother Parvati, and he doesn't understand that, and that's okay. See the Vedanta in Bhagavatam, how Advaita is the thread that runs through every skanda. This is Vedanta and Bhagavatam in summary. We've had a whole lot of classes, almost 40 actually, to reach this point. And I think it'll be another 80 classes, considering how big the 10th skanda is, before we complete Bhagavatam. And it's important to make sure that we're remembering all that we've been exposed to. So like Raja Parikshita, you will have a pariksha soon. And it is your good fortune, my good fortune, that we are able to have a review, because I've given you a lot of the pariksha questions and answers in this review. You're welcome. Oh.